Ladies and gentlemen, with big data, businesses can utilize analytics to identify their most valued clients. Additionally, it can assist businesses in developing new experiences, solutions, and products. Without further ado, we are going to listen to another interesting sharing on the impact of big data on business decision making by Mr. ZAKARIYA OTHMAN, General Manager and Head of Big Data Management of TFX Islamic. Please welcome.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, firstly, I would like to thank Peopology to invite me to this stage to basically to share my thoughts on big data, especially or rather particularly in making decisions using big data. So my presentation will be very much on the impact of big data analytics on business decision making. Okay, I'm not going to go through the, this is what you're going to expect from this, but I suppose I try to occupy these 40 minutes to fulfill this presentation. Okay, as you can see that, you know, the frantic pace, as we are talking about the fast pace of the modern world, is actually dictating the new game rules for businesses. Previously we used to use, people tend to rely on luck or intuition, or sometimes people used to say that with my gut feeling, I think the business is going to do well. But again, as you can see now, big data has actually come into the picture. Big data will help you to make decisions that can actually maximize your efficiency, maximize your profitability with the of course, the opportunity to reduce or to maximize your cost, and of course, be a risk person to minimize your risk. And so, big data has actually in our business world, as what Mr. was saying, that big data used to be the territory of the ITs, but now as an accountant myself, I have to step into this so-called IT world. And you can see that based on the statistics, you're saying that 1/3 of those based on the research, you're saying that almost 1/3 of the companies are basically integrating, or rather in the process of integrating big data into the business process, because they tend to realize that how important big data in making business decision. And as I said again, it's basically revolutionizing companies with this approach of business process. Okay, how does data analysis influences management decision? Of course, as I said, that making data-driven decisions will help ensure a better customer experience. As earlier presented, you're saying that previously it was very much on the sense that it's all structured. Now it's more on unstructured. So we get to know your customer base. That's why we're saying that you're talking about from the Instagram, from this Facebook. You are able to basically derive or conclude some decision based on the outcome of this source. And so said that making data-driven decisions will ensure a better customer experience. So you will be able to know the right audience and the right message to basically to give to the right audience at the right time. And the next will be the role of data in business is to basically to demonstrate what is actually the vision. Because as I mentioned, as an accountant myself, I used to say that numbers do not lie. So the numbers in the data will actually help you to understand better the vision and the mission of that particular company. And it's in the sense that because you can actually improve the business performances. With this data, you can able to improve in the sense that because you are able to see what happened in the previous year and what is supposed to be done in the future. And next we'll be breaking terms of, and with this data you are able to provide the actionable action instead of previously the board of management will say that, okay, these are the ideas kind of thing. How do you actually substantiate that without any numbers, without any data? So with data, it helps you to basically decides on the what are the what shall I say, actionable steps to move on. Okay, and last is actually allows company to better risk to basically to do better risk assessment. Again, the numbers help in you assessing the risk as well as the management. Next, we move on to what are the benefits. People are talking about the benefits of data kind of things. Okay, these are some of the common benefits: increased transparency and accountability, because the numbers, as I mentioned earlier, is all being shared to everyone. Everybody seems to know everything about the direction of the company. Everybody seems to know what's going to happen in the next future because the data basically reflects the action plan. And continuous improvement, of course, by virtue that we have some comparative analysis, we are able to provide or to think or to move forward in terms of improving the business. And of course, and again, as I said, because our base of decision making is based the base for the decision making is on from the data, and by virtue that the data are all the same, so it actually increases the consistency in making business decision. Because unlike previously, it was more of like instinct. Okay, I think we should go 10% or we should go for 5%, but data will help you to determine as to whether to retain the projection at 10% or 5% or otherwise. And again, data will also help to get the feedback of market research. We are able to understand what's going on in the market, instead of just being in the room doing the business with those strategies. So data will help to provide you the feedback for market research. And of course, flexibility and ability to adapt, in the sense that we are able to move from one business model to another based on the data collected, based on data analyzed. And finally, we say that, okay, that's basically the business decision. So we are able to adapt and being flexible enough to fit in the demand of the market. And last but not least, cost saving. When I say cost saving, I'm not saying that by virtue that you adopt big data, you are saving the cost. No, I know it's a costly affair to especially with the incorporation of AI and those kind of, it's very costly. But what I'm trying to say here, when you talk about cost saving, is the cost saving is the after effect results, in the sense that by virtue that you are able to have all this data, and you can actually determine what are the costs or what are the relevant information that can actually reduce your expenses. What are the information that can be used to actually increase your sales, increase your target market, this kind of thing. So when I say cost saving is whereby you are basically the after effect of the big data. Okay, moving forward. Okay, we have heard so many things about big data. We'll talk about data analytics and this kind of things. But as one of the industry players in this big data, fintechs kind of thing, these questions used to come. we use every time when I do presentation to the board of directors, these are the common questions. I mean, these are the big questions which sometimes I myself could not answer. What are the questions? Are we really on the verge of the new data driven era? Are we or are we not? You see, because when I present something to the board saying that, oh, I think we should consider data analytics kind of thing, so the board will say that, okay, before we move on to make a decision of our investment in data kind of thing, so the question is, are we really on the verge of the new data-driven era? Are we in that era now? I think this morning while I was having coffee, so one of the guests, so they was asking, are we really on the right track, or are we already in that era? So these are the questions that has been playing on my mind, especially when I have to present something to the board. And the next question is, are companies really faster, more productive, more efficient, more innovative due to the big data? Can you actually, how shall I say, uh, proudly say that yes, my company has improved the efficiency, has improved my profitability because I have started to adapt, or rather to apply, or rather to utilize big data technologies. Sometimes we can say good things about all those kind of things, but in reality, are we really doing the right thing? And the third question is just that, does this reflect the day-to-day reality of companies? Sometimes we talk about all those roses about the big data, how data analytics will help businesses continue, as which I've mentioned much earlier. So now the question is, do these reflect the day-to-day operation of the company? And last question that I do, if so, what are companies doing to benefit? I mean, are you really benefiting from the data that you are doing? Okay, so I think, of course, one of the ways, as a former academicians, as a former researchers, in order for me to answer these questions, I would normally base on research. I would normally base on statistics or whatever being conducted before. But before I move on to the what you call it, we just will move on to the results of this. Just to say that, I mean, because the results, the findings of those research will help me, or will help all of us, to basically at least answer some of these questions. And before I move to that, I'd just like to quote this, the Managing Director of Business Application Research Center. He says that, now, big data is a cornerstone of the transition to a digitalized economy. And everybody's talking about, oh, we are moving towards digitalization. We are moving towards about digitization and all this kind of thing. But we are basically at the cornerstone. It is still a relatively new topic. People talk about big data. People talk about all this, very, all those terminology, the machine learning, the Internet of Things, this kind of thing. It's still, the topic is very, how shall I say, it's still new. It's still something that people sometimes we get confused, especially non-IT people may get confused with the terminology. And it is not always clear if companies truly use big data, or if it is simply wishful thinking. Just because company A has actually adopted big data analytics in their operation, and I, as a competitor, I need to do the same thing, because these big data companies who are offering the big data services will come to the, hey, do you know that company A, who is basically your competitor, is actually adapting to that? So in my case, I would say that, okay, fine, I don't really understand what it's all about. By virtue that my competitor is using that, then I am using this as well. So this is where it's more of like wishful thinking, because towards the end of the day, they may have it, but they did not actually use it, you know. And many still appear to be searching for the real possibilities to actually use this in business. This is basically a true story, or rather a true reflection of big data in the current world. Okay, so to answer those questions, those big questions that I raised earlier, okay, I just want to go through, I'm not going to go to each and every point, but I'm okay, what roles data plays. So in this case, you say that in most cases, decisions are based on data. 34% because they have conducted a survey of companies, both public as well as a public sector, and 34% were saying that, which is the highest, saying that decisions are based on data and analysis throughout the company. So in other words, only 34% 34% agrees that most all the decisions are based on data analysis. And the next one is just that, okay, this is something I would like to highlight. As you can see, especially in Malaysia, the government has been very, very supportive in terms of digitalization, in terms of fintech, and they're very, very supportive. I don't deny it all. But I'm so taken aback when I saw these statistics. Looking at this, 25% of participating organization, in the public sector that represent public sector, saying that 25%, the 25% saying that, no big data initiative at all, and there is no plans for the future. I was like, oh my God, that's from the public sector. When on the other hand, the public sector, the governments are pushing for this digitalization. We're pushing for with all sort of incentives. It's sort of like facilities to actually encourage the private sector to actually move towards digitalization, to move towards this IT kind of thing. But if you look at this, 25% was saying that the public sector has got no big data initiative, and said to note that they don't even have plans to have it in future. Okay, and this one, you look at this number, you talk about, okay, these are the challenges, of course, the common challenges, even we face the same thing, because, when I was a researcher, when I was an academician, I have problems in doing my articles, in doing my research, because I do not have the data. But now, being in a data analytic company, I have a problem in the sense that I've got too much data. So this is another challenge. It's like, when on one hand, previously I was having problems. How does this small population represent the whole industry? Whereas here, I've got too much. Okay, for instance, we at TFX Islamic, we collaborate. We have some synergistic arrangement with Moody's Analytics, of which we have 120 million financial statements of companies around the world. 120 million companies, and going through each and every companies is like, oh gosh. Even in the local companies, we have almost 1 million. So these are the things. So this is basically, sometimes, that's human being. When you have too much, you complain. You have got too little, you complain. So I would say that I'm not complaining, but I'm just sharing our challenges. One of the challenges is that to handle is analysis of large data. And the next one is basically, of course, the thought leader. Again, as mentioned by the first speaker, I think the CEO, the leader, must be first thing first, be knowledgeable enough to actually be the driver in terms of this. Okay, so of course, IT people, yes, they are the people. But you see that in this case, 43% should get, so you're saying that management should actually be the driver. Which I think I totally agree with the first speaker, saying that, your top leader should be of that nature. And moving forward, I want to say that again, still management should be the leader. You see that 61% believes that management should basically the driver by status quo, because they are, because at the top they are the decision maker, so they should be the one leading this big data initiative. And again, as I said that in terms of the benefits, I'm not going to go into details because it's a bit too details. And of course, as you mentioned, that yeah, true. I think the answer as to whether are we really making better profits, yes. 13% agrees that there's an increase in revenues, and whereas like there's a big cost reduction. And again, it's on the rise, and of course marketing have started to use big data in terms of again, thanks to artificial intelligence, thanks to all this capability to actually move forward into the new approach of doing marketing. And of course, again, towards the end of the day, I suppose I think we are still in total reliance with the business intelligence. Not so much on the data. I think we are moving towards that, but at this point of time, we are still, based on the statistics, we are still in reliance with business intelligence, not so much on the data analytics. Okay. Okay, these are the again, as I said, investments, of course, IT will say that, I'm not going to do that, funded, yeah, budgets. Okay, I just like to share with you, this, sorry, hard. Okay, I just like to share, I just like to share with you in terms of our experience in dealing with the big data analytics. You see, in most cases, people associate big data analytics to big organizations. Because big data analytics can be considered very costly affair, and it's not really that simple. I mean, for an SME. So one of our objective, one of the when TFX Islamic was established, we were very much with the objectives of facilitating or assisting the small and medium enterprises, because this is also in line with the intention with the government's we've been talking about this. We'll be saying that the SMEs are the backbones of the GDP. The SMEs are basically the provider. 90% of this employment will provided by the SMEs, and yet SMEs are normally being neglected. So in this case, what we are trying to see, we would like to also get the SMEs involved in data analytics. How do we do that? Of course, we are not going to talk to them about the artificial intelligence. We are not talking to them about the high-end IT terminologies, this kind of thing. We go to the basic and fundamental usage of data so that they can actually appreciate their fundamental data to make or to help them making decisions. How do we do that? Firstly, as what we say, we help them to assist in doing the analysis, individual analysis, because as you can see, in most cases, financial statements will only give you, oh, okay, your profit is 10 million, your profit is 10,000, and this kind of thing, and it's like a standalone. And nobody helped them to understand, with this profit of 10,000, am I good or am I not? So what we do with that financial statements, we help them doing the analysis on individual, explaining to them that with this kind of profitability, your ratio, your leverage, this kind of thing, will help them to understand the insights of the financial statements. And as I mentioned earlier, in most cases when we ask, what's your turnover? Oh, I made a turnover of 2 million last year. So my next question is it good or is it bad? And you said, I don't know. Okay, who are your competitors? How is your competitors doing? So this is where we help them in doing peer and industry analysis, in the sense that we say that we use peer comparison. So a company with this standalone financial statements, we help them to analyze the data of their competitors. So do we saying that, okay, 10 million for this size of company of the same nature of company, which is good, or maybe 10 million is just like, oh, that's pathetic, because some companies have even reached 500 million. So this is where we we help the company to say that, okay, fine, with our existing data, we are able to decide where we should move on. We should decide whether this product line should be continued or just totally scrape off. So this is what we do, because we do the comparative analysis together from the very fundamental data, because financial statements is one of the sources of basic data. So this is what we do. We massage the data and we do the analysis. And last but not least, what we do, we just ask, okay, fine, you have done the analysis on your performance and we have done the comparison with your peers and the industry. And next, what should we do? So this is where we provide so-called the needs analysis, in the sense that, okay, I think your equity should be increased in order for you to have a better accessibility to funding. Or maybe I think your exposure is a bit too much, you should reduce it. So we do the gap analysis to make them understand that how we should move. So towards the end of the day, ultimately, they have this kind of decision making for business based on data. So in other words, the SMEs can also be part of the technology. And it's not that because you're a small company, data analytics are a bit too high end, it's too expensive for me. But you being just an SME, you still can actually adapt and adopt the big data analytics technology to basically to facilitate the growth of your business. And these are basically our reports. We have different reports. We have big screens. Okay, so having said that, okay, just as I mentioned, I just like to come back to the what you call it, the main topic, which are on data analytics. I would say that, okay, these are the challenges. Of course, data challenges. Again, this is common. We talk about the storage and management. I think somebody was saying that yes, you have. I mean, I think Gilbert's for saying that, yeah, Gilbert, there's no security, this kind of thing. That's also another thing. Storage and management. And then AI and machine learning challenges. Again, these are a very, how shall I say, a very high end challenges for that. And last but not least is the IoT, the Internet of Things. Again, there are challenges that comes together with this, and these are more on the data challenges. And of course, the process challenges. We talk about the dealing with the data growth. As I mentioned earlier, one of our greatest challenges that we face is we have got too much data. Previously, I had problems in conducting my research because I have limited data. Now I have too much data. So we say that dealing with data growth. You can see that the data, the information, especially with this AI, you can actually see that, oh my God, I thought it was all structured. Yes, name, age, demography of the age, kind of thing. Yeah, sorry, how do I do that? How do I move on to this? Sorry. Now, again, being an old accountant, I'm not good in this technology. This is a simple technology. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that because the process challenges and the dealing with the data growth, the integration of the different data sets, those kind of things. So these are the challenges, especially when the management is not from the IT side, and okay, the validation of data, this kind of thing. And we move on to next is basically the process challenges. We talk about the process challenges again, data, okay, same thing. And new technology to learn. Okay, these are the things, these are the challenges. And of course, when we talk about challenges, this is what I used to tell my staff. Well, don't come to me with just your problems, Come to me with a problem and your proposed solution. And that is basically how I manage my staff, in the sense that they can come to me with the problems, but I would say that what's your recommendation to overcome such problem? So these are the things that we do. We just said, okay, as I said, these are some of the recommendations for a new company who are thinking or who are considering big data as one as part as one of the plans to integrate into the business process by starting a pilot project. Starting a pilot project that incorporates different departments. So in the sense that not only do not develop this big data, leave it solely on IT. The other departments say, sorry, I'm not interested. The marketing, the finance. So try to create a pilot project whereby you have everyone from the different departments who sits in the project. Okay. Then, of course, be creative and give leeway to employee. That sometimes, as you said, that there was I like the sentence, cannot be a measurement of business leader, but come to think of it, instead of getting these so-called financial experts being a management leader, they said no, that's not feasible. Oh no, that's very costly. So I think the next step is to actually be creative and give your employee leeways to with ideas, so they can come out. We used to say that, okay, sometimes bosses will say that think out of the box, kind of thing, and the kind of thing, and yet they stop the staff from thinking even within the box. And okay, of course, training is crucial, very crucial. And of course, you must have a strategy. You must have a plan to move forward. And keep in mind again, this is what I keep on telling to the board. Big data is very, very explorative in the sense that don't expect a return on investment immediately. It's still exploratory. And especially they will say that you're an accountant, how do you see that? Then I said, then I suppose we need to get this chief technology officer to actually educate the management. And last but not least, again, top management has to be the important driver, because without that, nothing works. As you can see, how Islamic banking is doing very well, because it's actually top down. Bank Negara steps in and said that all the bankers, you have got to do this, and look at the performance. If it's top down, if it's like down to top, it doesn't work. So in this case, top management must be the important driver for you to move into this. On that note, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What a valuable insight from Mr. ZAKARIYA OTHMAN, General Manager and Head of Big Data Management of TFS Islami. I am glad to invite Ms. Vivian Lee to present a token of appreciation to Mr. ZAKARIYA OTHMAN for sharing beneficial insights and making today's event successful. Please welcome. Thank you, Ms. Vivian Lee.